pleasure to be here on Monday and share with you some thoughts on food. This week's topic is food, judgment, and how it all relates to trauma and why it is so difficult for many of us to truly experience freedom in eating and experiencing food. So, I want to welcome you today to listen in into a couple of minutes, say 10, 15. I try to keep it short. And I really want to kick off this week by simply asking, what is food to you? And I really mean that literally. Is it something that you enjoy? Is it something that bothers you? Is it something that you don't care about? Something functional? I really feel like when I'm talking about food and I'm coming from a long history of shifting different associations toward food, that the way that we are observing food is in fact something that is deeply relating to how we are feeling nourished. And I want to come to that topic in a second. First, I really want to just shed a light onto what do we associate food with. By associating, I mean, what have I learned to associate food with when I was a child? Yes. So I was the oldest of four, and the way that I grew up was basically as most elderly child, like the most, say the oldest of a couple of kids, what they experience often, not all the time, but often, is that with every sibling that comes more into the family, they feel like the amount of attention that gets taken away from them is increasing. So they basically feel more and more like, shit, like I don't get the attention. I don't get enough nourishment. I don't get enough love, attention, time with my parents because now there's a little one and it also wants, desperately needs attention and love and food and whatever. Yeah. So in my case, how I experienced it, and honestly, like I didn't really notice it then. But later on in life, when I was reflecting down into my childhood and remembering how I felt then, it started when when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And maybe my mom has more accurate descriptions of my behavior and how it changed. But what I remember is when I was, say, 6 or 7 years old, it started to drastically change the amount of food that I was eating and the speed by which I was eating it. Something that I would later hear from a lot of people, most of all my grandma, she would always tell me, slow down, don't eat so fast, don't eat so much, She would probably not tell me not to eat so much, but really to slow down. That was one that I always was hearing. And from other people too. It's like, man, like you're fast. And still to this day, sometimes when I'm really hungry, it's like, boom, and food is gone. So the way that I noticed food for me was like something that the less I felt I had time, the less I felt like relaxed, the more stress I felt, like, the more tension, the quicker I was eating food. And I was never regarding that subject. I was never caring for that. But later on, I would find out that food, in fact, was something deeply comforting to me. And I did never think of that at all. Like for me, it was just, yeah, I'm always hungry. I'm always eating. I mean, I burn a lot, literally. I'm training. Usually my training regime is around 3 to 5 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's my regular regime of training. Yes. Of course, you're going to burn a lot. So the difficulty with that is, it is difficult, especially for a young guy like me back then. Now I'm really old. When I was really young then, the difficulty for me was, how am I able to maintain this kind of impact, like this kind of influx of food and nourishment? So something that I had a couple of times was the experience that I had a deep uh, difficulty to never feel satisfied enough. I never felt quite, how do I put that? I never felt quite full. And so I always overeat. My association with food was comfort. My association with food was something that gave me the feeling of satisfaction. It was a measure of security to some degree. I always enjoyed to have a full fridge at home. My association with food was also functional. It was literally sometimes like I was experienced. I don't know if you know that feeling, but when you haven't eaten enough and your blood sugar drops, You start to get shivery, all white in the face. That's how I experienced food sometimes. And so I had a couple of these moments where my blood sugar dropped through the floor, and it was horrifying. I felt I felt so uncertain and shivery, a feeling of dread and desperation for a moment, and sometimes even panic for a brief second there. And that's how I associated with food every now and again. That if I don't eat enough, if I don't get the feeling that there was plenty, more than I could ever eat, it was somehow unsettling. And I did not know that. I was not aware of that. I simply only then later became aware of that I'm actually emotionally tied, that I tied myself to food in such a way when I met my current partner, Grace. And I experienced how she was struggling with food and her food freedom, her emotional eating disorders, and later helped women to grow out of that. And, while I was listening to her, how she was sharing her experiences with food and her disorders, which was natural to her at this point to state, yeah, this is a disorder. It's actually, to some degree, it's very troubling to live with this problem. I started to see some patterns that I also had, and that is when it occurred to me, man, there's a lot of people experiencing that. But because it's never regarded, it's something, you'd rather not talk about it. We're living actually in a society where there's plenty. Um, yeah, we simply let it drop. Especially women who associate food and the effects on their body with food, and then the validation that they receive from others. That's for us men as well. When I was bodybuilding, when I was actively creating a bigger mass and a better looking body, when I was actively engaging in trying to build a body image for others to see, for me to feel validated by, food was essential. The way that I was eating, I was counting calories. I was exactly measuring the way that I was eat food. Um, Yeah, looking back, like I would never wish that for someone. Like it eats up your time like Pac-Man. I don't know if you know the game. So it's crazy how much time, how much effort, like you could say blood, sweat, and tears, but it really goes that way. So that was what food went to me. Went a little overtime to describe that. I really want to share with you this question and simply go and reflect a little bit about that. What does food mean to you? Are you aware of your associations, your triggers, maybe your emotional ties to food? And yeah, just get to know that part of yourself. The next question I really want to dig into really quickly is what keeps us from fruit freedom, right? The food freedom, the food freedom, what keeps us from that? Simple. 4 elements: judgment, the inner critic generally, shame, so traumatic mechanisms that we reenact in our life, and our conditioning, as in our culture. That is really what keeps us from food freedom. How can food freedom look like? Geez, that's like, so how can food freedom look like? In my humble opinion, to stand up and eat whatever I like, whenever I feel hungry, whenever my body tells me, man, you need this and that food. Food freedom to me looks like I can always eat. There's never shortage of food. Food freedom to me looks like I can share it, I can buy it, I can have it. Food freedom to me looks like I actually literally know how to enjoy each bite. And it's not something that I do while I watch television, while I'm listening to podcasts, while I do anything, talk to people, but literally be 100% there and enjoy each and every bite until I feel satisfied. Food freedom to me also means to know when I am satisfied. That's tricky, honestly. For me to understand what food freedom means is very closely tied to the idea of wealth, if you remember what I just posted yesterday. So the idea of wealth is very seldom actually defined. What is wealth to you? What is food freedom to you? And I encourage you to just, like, I mean, these brief couple of minutes every Monday that I share here with you is simply to just spark some thought processes. I really want to just help people create more awareness. That's all. That's all this is about. Nothing else. I just want you to share some of my thoughts, some of the processes that I am rolling around with in my head. And maybe in the process, maybe you find some solutions, maybe some closure, maybe some ideas that help you along. Okay, so like with the idea of wealth, what is wealth to you? Maybe write down 3 bullet points, what it means to you and how you are trying to increase it. And the same goes with food freedom. What does that mean to you? Maybe write down 3 bullet points just to yourself. You don't have to share them. And then see if you can increase that. Can you somehow cultivate that so that you are experiencing more of it? I really hope so. Let me share with you my last topic for today. Yes, it's a very dear question. And when I was writing it down and preparing this session, I was really smiling to myself because I know some people tell me, yeah, let's go on with that one again. What does it mean to nourish? Yeah, it's important, that question. Let's roll it. What does it mean to nourish? Nourishment as such, and I went to different sources and found the couple like a couple of prominent topics, like a couple of prominent terminologies. So feeding, to feed, yes, to grow, as in growing, support, to support people, to support myself, to support in general, support, to take care of. Now it becomes interesting. So to nourish also means to cherish. Like I feel nourished when I can cherish something. And then the last one, which blew my mind, because and then I was thinking about it, and it really resonates with me. To educate, to learn, to inspire, that nourishes. Now, before I was diving into this topic in my own researches about my own behavior, because I'm the first and the last student of myself. When I was looking into what nourishes me, I also found that the way that I'm consuming media, if you're ever watching this until this point, you have been consuming. Yes, you have been receiving information. And that is in turn reproducing your mental state, because it sparks some ideas, I hope. It sparks some processes. And what that really does is it shifts your wiring. Now, everything that we are consuming is, to some degree, nourishing in that sense, as it is helping us to rebuild ourselves. In terms of food, it's literally helping us to rebuild ourselves from the matter that we have been consuming. Every cell does that. Again, back to Pac-Man. I don't know if you know the game. It's a little round yellow ball. There was a movie, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And it's just eating stuff. Yes, just wank, wank, wank. So, and it kind of like rebuilds itself by it. And that's basically that's a cell, right? It consumes information and rebuilds itself from the consumed information. Now, if I am watching porn, that does the same thing. I'm reproducing thought patterns, imagery. I'm literally visualizing it, sometimes in the dream. If I do it late night and I go to sleep afterwards, the pictures, the images, it does not have to be porn. It can be like any kind of violent stuff, videos, video games, or movies. You're going to reproduce that. You are hardwiring yourself according to the information, the matter that you have consumed. That's the point where people say, yeah, we heard that before. Yeah, I really want to put that out. It's very important, I believe. Now, let's just take this with us. What is nourishment to me? What do I nourish myself currently with? And then maybe how can I improve that? And by improving, I mean to up the quality. That's really how I perceive a big chance of what we can do. Yes? Just always see if I can increase the life quality, the food quality, maybe the quality of nourishment, the quality of relationships, of connections, of experiences. What can I do to up the quality, not the quantity? Because we all know the saying, quantity does not equal the quality. And so I want to leave you with this, and I know it took a little longer today, but I really hope that you could take something away from today's session, from these couple of minutes of my brain. And take away that thought. What is nourishing you? Not what you're consuming in a mass, but really what do you feel would nourish you if you would give that a little more attention? Maybe a good friend, maybe a good, I don't know, time, a walk, fresh air, maybe a good movie. What would nourish you? So I encourage you to take these thoughts with you if they ever help you, if you feel like nourished by them. And I want to thank you for the time that you have spent, that you have shared with me, listening to what I'm thinking, what I'm having to share with you. And I'm really looking forward to meet you again. And I would be blessed, I would feel blessed if you would share some thoughts with me too. In any case, I wish you an incredible week ahead, and I'm looking forward to meet you again. Have a beautiful rest of your day.